I just want to remind all of you a couple things, and I think it was, first name? Carrie. Carrie, you're right. She's a chiropractor, and you said you see a lot of rib cage problems, tightness, restriction. Maybe you said torque, I don't remember. On which side, Carrie?
Well, it just seemed I seem to adjust more ribs on the right.
I agree. And I said to Carrie this, and Carrie, we don't know each other very well, but I said this. Through the entire right side of our body, we have more torsion. We have more torsion in our cranium. We have more torsion on this joint. We have more torsion through the foot. We have arches that like to get high, and torque that likes to go across the plantar surfaces of the foot, and the talocrural joint, or the subtalar joint, or the calcaneal structures. We have more torque through the kneecap and through the knee joint itself. Teach a whole I&I course on torque on that right side. We have torque on our SI joint. We get torque on the nerve. We get torque on the inlet and the outlet. There's torque all the way up. On which side? The right side. So that's why I like the graph, because it's a reflection of the twist that's counterintuitive to us when it's referring to rotation. So we'll get you a nice rotation sheet, and then you can come down and say, oh, when you internally rotate, that's external torque. That's torque on you. That's bigger than the rotation, because if you don't shut off the limiting restriction of what you're trying to go into, you're going to be adjusting for a long time. And the neurological principles associated with torque is probably what you're trying to adjust and overcome. Page 27, we're going to now get into this chain. Is it 27? And it's called the anterior-interior chain. And a lot of these forces that we're now being presented with by this slide, we've already discussed. We've already gone over this. But we're going to go over it again, and then I'll pull up. Jonathan, would you mind being my subject this afternoon for testing? I don't know anything about you, but you seem like you're willing to do that. And plus Mike will say you have to do it. So number one, the diaphragm pulls the dorsal spine up and forward. The psoas and the iliacus at the same time will pull or can pull the lumbar spine and pelvis down and forward. When those two forces pull, the lumbar lordosis increases and your lumbar extension goes up. Okay? You have this article in the back of your manual. If you want to, I think it's in the back, isn't it? If you go back to your sleeve of your manual, you want to pull that out. That's one of my, this is one of my favorite journal articles in my lifetime. This is one of my favorite ones, okay? The functions of breathing and its dysfunctions and the relationship to breathing therapy. It sounds a little homeopathic, but boy, if you really get into it, the author did a really good job. Can I just take you through it I think it warrants that a little bit. The function, and I assume all the home study people will have this as well. The function and dysfunction of breathing, referenced out. I like this. So kind of like a cheat sheet, what we're trying to do with ribs. Okay. If you go to the next page, the dysfunctions of biomechanical breathing. You know, the dysfunctional things associated with not only the diaphragm, but take your pen and underline the word asynchronous, paradoxical movement of the rib cage and the abdomen. I think you should read that. Factors that affect the efficiency of biomechanics of breathing. The first one is hyperinflation, the lung volume. I like this discussion about abdominal weakness, but more importantly, go to 3.3, rib cage stiffness. Right down next to it, torque. Okay, and you'll understand kind of where I'm going with this torsional influence. This need for drive, this need for respiratory drive. Look at this next one, breathing and postural and motor control. It's a nice 3 paragraphs on posture and motor control related to breathing. Simple, fast, and well documented, evidenced out. I like it. Biomechanical influences on hemodynamics of the lymphatics and the lymphatic system. The role of breathing in physiological regulation. Oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH. Quick little read. It's a quick little read. Hyperventilation and hypocapnia. Whole page on that. Quick, dirty, to the point with references. Love it. Breathing, homeostasis, and underline this word. Oscillations. Oscillations are big. Rhythmic sinus arrhythmias. Okay, RSAs. Look, there it is. Respiratory sinus arrhythmias. What are they all about? What does that have to do with ventilation? I thought they did a good job with that. Oh my goodness, underline this word. Patterns of dysfunction that resonate with the frequency of breathing. People that are trying to breathe with their heart rate. You ought to know something about that. Breathing, stress, emotions. Oh my goodness, we talked about that, Tessa. Autonomics. How can you beat this little article? We just covered everything we did today. That's why it's in your manual. And look at all the references that are associated with it. So Jen, it's a jewel. It's been in our manual for quite a while. I like it. The other one that I think you should be aware of is this article written by Nakamson. And that was written in 1964. It's old. You don't have it. But if you can get it. It talks about intradiscal pressure. The Valsalva revealed variable results for increases in intradiscal pressure. What an abdominal corset will do for you with intradiscal pressure. What I like about this, you all have a phenomenal abdominal corset on your body. It's the abs, but you've got a better one. You've got this cylinder activity going on. You don't have this article, but I would look at getting it. The study will tell you that as long as you keep yourself flexed, you have an intra-abdominal corset on. It's bottom line. They put a little gradient pressure checker in between these vertebrae to tell you whether or not you were extending or flexing, and what the intravertebral disc pressure did with flexion and intra-abdominal compression, or better yet, corsets. So I thought this was a great article. It tells you the importance of keeping your thoracic lumbar spine in flexion, not what? Extension. So I like that article. This lung volume reduction surgery increases FEV1 by increasing total surface area. It talks about total surface area in the ZOA and the correlations with ZOA. The more lung volume you have, the more ZOA you have. The more ZOA you have, the more lung volume you have. That article I have in front of me as well. The effect of chronic hyperinflation on the diaphragm length and surface area. That's a Cassard article. Guys, take a look at these articles. They're good articles. Jen, I could talk a lot more about them, but there are three that I think all the speakers who speak on this topic like using. Am I correct with this? So that's why I wanted to share it with you. Biomechanically, the diaphragm is positioned to advance the rib cage up. It has a normal length to it. If you start to take away its length, it starts to become postural. If you provide full length, it's going to stay respiratory. Here's an illustration that shows you the importance of maintaining length to a diaphragm, decompression of intradiscal tissue, secondary to maintaining opposition and apposition. So obviously you're going to have more compression, more extension is going to create a flatter diaphragm, a more pulled forward diaphragm, and framinal closure. I think you have that in your manual, right? Flex positions help you anticipate things. In this case, if you watch tennis, you'll see that Chad, she's always capable of moving because she's in a state of flexion. The thorax is now unloaded, and she's ready to spring in a triplanar movement pattern that always includes rotation. Any lengthening and twisting compensatory activities. that exert extension, can also exert respiratory blockage, and usually extension and respiratory blockage has to do with the word inhalation. Posterior mediastinal expansion is usually restricted. Tomorrow we're going to spend a lot of time on how to maintain posterior mediastinal expansion and how to reduce torsional influences on the diaphragm contralateral to the mediastinum. So we'll go over that a little bit more tomorrow. As a result of the ilium anteriorly rotating, the femur biomechanically becomes oriented inwardly. There's that word. And torque demands on the psoas as an ineffective femoral external rotator occurs. Torque. In other words, torque means you never win. You're restricted. You try harder, torque goes what? Up. You never win. So as you're trying to get that femur to rotate with that psoas, it's not winning because you're locked into that position. You have to put more torque on. Please write this down. Torque increases neurotension. Not tension. Neurotension. Autonomic tension. I'm constantly asking myself, what's the best way to shut down someone's neurotension? Not their hypertonicity, not their tone, but their tone and hypertonicity related to neurotension, reflexive tension, protective tension, autonomic tension. Does that make sense? And you've got a lot of that going on as you try to stabilize yourself in a non-neutral state. I look at this and I look at this as neurotension. Inside of you, you have a diaphragm that blends in with the quadratus lumborum and the tissue through the psoas major, and all this polyarticular activity that comes down and through the leg and down to the tibia is neuro to me. It's a neural response, and it's a neural category of tension. It's not physical to me. Physical to me is when you stop and you don't reciprocate. That's physical tension. Neurotension is when you want to walk and you can't get it to occur. That's torque. You're trying, and you got to try harder, and the more demand you have, which is what that article I was showing you about, the more synaptic work it takes to break through that torque, the higher your anxiety, the higher you go up with your tension, your neurotension. This is a lady that has difficulty walking because she's neurally challenged with breathing. So the breathing and her walking are correlating and are nicely seen as correlated issues. Look at her right arm. That's neurotension. She has neurotension and torsion on which side of her body? All right. She can't move the right side. She's not breathing with her right side. Her right side is posturally stabilizing her. She can't let go. If she did, she'd collapse. That's neurotension. That's breathing that's influencing her walking, and walking isn't helping her breathing because she can't alternate. That's not alternating gait. I'll show it to you again. This splinting going on with her right abdominal wall and the centered activity. Look at her left foot and right foot. Look at the crossover. In, in, in. This is her dominant side. And so her ribs are staying up in the front and down on the right, up in the front on the left, down the right, and she's in thoracic rotation to the left. That made sense, didn't it, everybody? And I won't talk about torque at this point, but I want to. You understand why? Because in that position I just was in, her thoracic torque on the right is extremely high. She's got tension. And the reason her left rib cage can't come down is because her right rib cage can't go up. It can't expand, can't open. I'm going to do this afternoon. We'll go through, I think your test results are all, the test